It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's getting that time again, Halloween, right? I hope you're doing all right. Busy show for you today. But first, today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Billy C app. It's for free. Download it today. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and download the app. You'll see the banner right there on the right. And while you're at it, don't forget, for all the fights that you can't get on your television, Fight TV is the answer for you, man. We got an embedded player right on the front page of BillyCBoxing.com. So any Fight TV exclusives, whether they're free or pay-per-views, are available through our player on BillyCBoxing.com. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of it right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just go to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And if you're looking to get a signed copy of the book, visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. It's all over the place on the website. So check that out. Hey, today's show, we're going to be breaking down at least the three major fights scheduled for this weekend. First, for the World Boxing Super Series, Rob Brant against Jürgen Brähmer. Then we have the other heavyweight fight, Dillian Whyte against Whyte-Helenius. And then, of course, Anthony Joshua defending his world heavyweight titles against Carlos Takam, which was a last-minute sub for Kubrat Pulev. I got some crazy news about some titles and movements and contention and who's I'm not too happy about this, and it really shows you how worthless these titles can be and how unfair it is for a young fighter who's moving up or trying to move up in the ranks and paying his or her dues, so to speak, and then just being bypassed because of political reasons. So we'll get into that. We also have the fourth installment of Anthony Joshua's diary, which is being published in the newspapers over in the UK. So I'm excited to read that. As you know, I don't read them until now, live, so we can get the full impact. We got some emails to read. Got a lot of stuff. Dax Khan might stop by a little later and give his thoughts on the fight scheduled for this weekend. But first, joining me right now from St. Simon's Island in Georgia is my man, Sal Rocky Cenicola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you, my friend?
I'm not doing too bad, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Well, listen, We got that installment, the fourth installment of Anthony Joshua's diary. I'm going to read it now. I look forward to this, man. I was glad that there was a fourth part. I've been having fun with this. What do you think?
I know you have. We have. I hope he keeps writing.
Well,
before, during, and after the fight.
With this fight, you're right. With this fight coming up, he's probably going to be writing during the fight, but I hope he keeps his mind
in between rounds.
Yeah. I hope he does keep focused.
He's going to talk about telegraphing a punch.
Yeah, well, I hope he does pay attention because, like, in one of the diary entries, should I say, he just seemed to be still on cloud nine over the Klitschko victory. And like you and I had talked, not only on the air but off the air, it's time to put that behind him and move forward. I mean, yes, it's good, but yes, it's bad. And bad sometimes means good, but in this case, bad is not good.
I think you're right. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good.
Well, unless it's bad, then it's good.
It's really good.
You know, like she was bad. She was bad. That means she was good. But if she was bad, that means she was bad. It's bad. Yeah, exactly. Well, we better move on.
Let's move forward. Yeah, hey, it's nice Friday. Happy Friday to you. How's the Yankees doing? Okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, they got rid of Girardi, which was.
I saw that. I didn't saw that. I see that. I heard that. I couldn't believe it.
You saw that. You still see that, and you heard that. You heard all three of those were correct if you put them in the right text.
I see no evil. Hear no evil.
But Joe Girardi, just to bounce off of boxing for a second, Joe Girardi. Leaves the Mets. I mean, I wish
Yankees,
he was with the
Yankees.
Leaves the Yankees.
Thank you very much.
There was all kinds of rumors. First, they say he left on his own. Then they said that they didn't want to retain him. Cashman said he didn't want to retain him. Then they said they changed their mind. They wanted him back, but he said, no way, Jose, or Jose B. But the truth of the matter is he's no longer with the Yankees, and I find that pretty weird. I mean, the guy has he's done well. I mean, I would take him with the Mets, bro.
Well, that might be an easy contract to fulfill because he's out of a job right now. And, the Mets might be looking too. And why not just go across the boroughs and start shopping right there?
Well, I see you're up on the Major League Baseball scene. In case you didn't catch it, 3 days ago, the Mets already signed a new manager. So I just
wait.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I know you've been busy.
Hey, how's boxing going
Yeah,
today?
let's talk a little boxing, all right? Because obviously, when I throw other sports at you, there's
for spring training, man.
Your knowledge is sinking into the abyss with the other sports.
It's not the American League.
Let's keep you.
Giants.
You don't even watch. Let's be real. Come on, Sal. You don't even watch the friggin' Yankees, all right? I mean, you're a Yankee fan. I get it, but you don't watch the game. So let's stop. I know you barely watch boxing.
I have time. I vicariously go through the batting motions every day.
What do I tell you? Everybody's busy, Sal. Everybody's busy.
I just can't watch a game.
Who are you?
A 3-hour game.
Wait a minute. Who are you, Scotty? Who are you, Scotty from the USS Enterprise? I just don't have the time, Captain. I don't have the time. You rebuild that whole engine. It's going to take me a week. You got 10 seconds. All right, I'll do it.
Hey, how about that damn transporter? That transporter always went out. Every time they had to depend on that transporter, what happened? It would melt somebody in half.
No, I used to like, Captain, geez, Scotty, we got to rebuild the whole engine of this, aircraft. How long is it going to take? Well, Captain, it's going to take about a month and a half. You got 3 hours. I'll get it done. But anyway, let's read what Anthony Joshua has to say. He says, "I'm a good, honest guy. That's why people have gotten behind me for my journey." I agree with that. He is a bright spot, and I like it. He's got class. He says, I just celebrated my 28th birthday a couple of weeks ago. I say celebrated, but it was just spent indoors chilling and playing some board games. Times have changed. Maybe I'm getting old. Yeah. Hey, Anthony Joshua, if you're watching and listening, I got T-shirts older than you, so you're nowhere near old. He says, when I was younger, birthdays were a lot different. as you get older, they just get ticked off. You don't appreciate them, partly in cause because there's work to be done. And the older you get, people don't even remember your birthday. I have a hard time remembering my own birthday. So
my last birthday party was at 10 years old.
Yeah, well, that was like 70 years ago. But anyway, he says, I still do normal things, but now I'm older. They don't lead me into that sort of trouble that I used to get into when I was younger. I guess it depends on what your definition of naughty is. He says, I think that people have related to that and got behind my journey from the amateur ranks all the way to Cardiff on Saturday. Boxing is a working man's sport. The fans are people that get up early in the morning and graft, and that's a boxer's life too. So people relate to that. I agree with that. I think boxing has always been a blue-collar sport. Sal, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think, it always has drawn that middle class or blue collar, and it also, of course, attracts the high rollers and the upper class, and so it is a boxing for all to observe and to watch and to like and to follow. But yes, I definitely think that's probably some of the attractions, because some of the middle class or the working class that gets up and, as you say, grabs their lunch pail in the morning and goes out with the Flintstone mobile.
There you go, Dino again.
Can identify themselves. That's what I think a lot of fans could do with certain fighters. There's something about that fighter that they can relate, that they could say, well, you know what, this guy might understand my life or this and that, or my life could emulate what he's been through or something. So there's that connectivity that sometimes occurs, sometimes on a deeper level with some less than casual fans. But yeah, for the most part, to answer your question,
gotcha.
I think it's a good, solid blue-collar attraction.
Good. That was a pretty long yes. Woo. I
almost had to take a break. What time it is? I'm going to tell you how they make the watch.
I almost had to take a break. But anyway, we got, he says, I just want to do what I do and keep it real. And if that's not good enough, then who else can I be? People are respectful around me. They give me time and space. It's nice both ways, though, because I'm a people person. I grew up on an estate, so I'm used to being around loads of people. My family is massive, so if it's not an issue when I'm approached in public, I haven't really noticed any great chances in how people approach me after the Vladimir Klitschko fight, but my mom has. I love the way the Brits call their mom. They say mums, and that's like a flower here. But anyway, he says, when I first told her I wanted to box, she wasn't sure, but now she's seeing how the discipline and dedication has matured me, and she sees the benefits of that. My son is going to grow up like his dad, hardworking and understanding sacrifices, because I think that he's the heir to the throne. So he's going to have to be tough, wise, and make critical decisions. My boy and I are on a mission together, and I'm guiding him now, although I realize it's the early days, as he's only 18 months old. I was going to say, I saw 18, and I go, 18? What did he have? No, 18 months. 18 I want him to start from the top and use his brain. Footballers use their feet, boxers use their fists, and I want him to use his brain. First and foremost, I think, like any parent, I want him to be happy. If he wants to fight, he has to use his head and navigate through life as boxing as a business. Naseem Hamed retired at 28. Imagine that. I feel that if I make the right adjustments in training as I go on, I could still be fighting into my late 30s, so that's still a few birthdays to come. I've noticed that as you get older, you cannot put your body through as much. There's a lot of sparring and a lot of impact, and it takes its toll. So with my coach, would have to adapt and manage that and keep my career going. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Showed that you can go on and on and on and on. Wait, let me finish. If you're smart,
he doesn't know me.
Not that Floyd Mayweather is smart, because I don't think he is. But anyway, if I am fulfilled outside of sport, then that might help me make up my mind to hang up the gloves. But right now, I don't have much else to keep me occupied. Boxing is all I know, and it's all I got. Maybe without it, or after I'm done, I'd go back to school. But for now, I'll keep my study into the ring. The final part of this diary is actually out now. We don't have it, but we will get it and read it. I guess Monday. But what do you think, Sal? I think I still think the same of Anthony Joshua. He's a modest guy, and he is a blue collar fighter. You know, he does seem to bring his lunch pail to the gym. And what I like about this guy, I've said it many times, especially this week. He's willing to learn. He's a lot of these guys, when they reach that top, at least the title, they think they know it all. And you see it sometimes in the corner. You see the fighter go back to a corner and the trainer's trying to, give him instruction, and they're not listening to him. They're looking at the girls. They're checking out the ring card girls, worse than Billy C. I mean, and they're not even paying attention to the trainer, and I don't see that with this kid. And I don't know. I see all positive things. Your thoughts?
I know you do, and there are a lot of positive things, and sometimes, and it's even in his words, there's quite a few things he still has to learn, and a little bit of an inexperience that he shares with us. So he's a well balanced guy, especially where he is at this point in his career, and I think he's humble enough to continue to want to learn and to continue to want to experience the roller coaster that sometimes occurs in a boxer's life, and he's a good, like I said, blue-collar kind of guy, and that's why he has a lot of fans following him. You can identify, you can work with him, you can appreciate his hard work, his work ethic, and his due diligence, and how he fights, how he brings a fight to the ring. And no, he's a solid guy, and we like that, and it's in the sport today and always.
Coach just made a comment in the chat room. And he says, yeah, they win, they win a Golden Glove title, and they think they know it all. I noticed being, father of two girls, and we, were very successful in sports, specifically softball. And I also had the opportunity to coach boys teams because of friends of mine with their sons and stuff. And I'll tell you one thing I did notice about the boys and the girls. The girls were so receptive to learn what you told them. You tell them, hey, do this, do that, and they listen. And I see that in the gym, too. You're teaching a female fighter, hey, here's how you throw a jab. You throw it like this. And they're responsive, and they listen. The boys seem to think they know it all already. They already know how to hit. They already know how to throw a jab. And it's like, no, you don't, kid. You really don't, And they're much harder to teach. At least that's my experience. And I know you have boys, so you haven't seen the other side, but I'm sure you've run into that with your sons, right? Where they kind of think.
Oh yeah. To a degree. I mean, my kids are also humble enough when they know, they think on the outside that they can do something or that they know how to do something, but with the right schooling and tutelage, you show them the proper way, and they're like sponges. They want to soak it up, and they're very coachable, if you will, as I was. And you know what? When you want to learn, when you want to improve, when you look at the big picture, and too many times, as you were saying, I was pretty impressed with Anthony Joshua's insert that, he's looking at the big picture, as I used to say in the financial world, the macro view versus the micro view, which is just right in front of you. He's looking past, and that's what you got to do when you're a sponge and you want to learn. And you're absorbing what is going to be useful in your life in the future. You have to look past what's right in front of you and look at the macro view. Look at your goals. Write them down. Make a plan and work a plan. That's what I tell my staff. That's what I tell my kids. That's what I try to tell myself.
I said at the beginning of the show that we had some updates in the sport about titles. And there's several of them here, and I'm going to start with this first one since we're talking heavyweights, and since we're talking the simple fact that Anthony Joshua is the WBA heavy. What do they call it? The WBA Super World Heavyweight Champion, not to be confused with a super heavyweight. He's the Super World Heavyweight Champion. but they also have the regular old, the regular old sloth world heavyweight champion.
I'm already confused.
That's available. It's vacant. The WBA's regular old, you're just a regular world champion. You're not the super world champion. You're just a regular world champion. They have that title up for grabs. And it was put out yesterday by my man. I like it. I like Bobby Hitz. He's out of Chicago of Hitz Boxing. He says that, according to him and his co-promoter of Square Ring, which is Roy Jones, that it looks like Kubrat Pulev, the same guy who sustained an injury, who can't fight Anthony Joshua tomorrow night, is going to be fighting that household name of a heavyweight, Frezequendo, who incidentally hasn't fought in 3, count them, boys and girls, 1, 2, 3 years, not 3 months, 3 years. And apparently the WBA is giving them permission to fight for the vacated title. Now, in case y'all forgot, the title was Ruslan Shagayev had the WBA regular heavyweight title. Frezequendo went to Russia and couldn't. He had some personal problems, and one thing led to another. He ended up not training and then going there and losing a fight. Then they didn't pay him, and he sued. And after X amount of time, he won. And the WBA had ruled that Frezequendo got the immediate rematch with Shagayev, but Shagayev retired. So that means Frezequendo was going to fight for the vacant belt, which they set up for Shannon Briggs. You following all of this, Sal?
No, I got lost.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's confusing. So
confusing.
So Shannon Briggs and Frezequendo, which was a joke to begin with, were going to fight for the vacant, regular scum old WBA World Heavyweight title. And Shannon Briggs, surprisingly, which is a joke, boys and girls, tested positive for steroids. Because, the guy, if you don't think he's juiced up, you don't know what being juiced up is like. And so that fight was canceled. Now, they ordered Oquendo to fight Alexander Ustinov. But because Ustinov has signed to fight Manuel Charr, under the WBA rules, the next guy in line is able to fight. And who's that next guy in their rankings? Kubrat Pulev. So they're talking about bringing Kubrat Pulev to fight Frezequendo, who incidentally hasn't fought in 3 years, to fight Pulev in Chicago. Sal, do you know when the last WBA heavyweight title fight or any world heavyweight title fight took place in Chicago was?
Probably in the 70s.
Jack Dempsey? I thought you were going to say
I was going to say Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey? No. 1981. Mike Hercules Weaver against James Quick Tillis. And that took place in 81. So it's been over 35 years for that. So we'll keep you posted on that. But what's your thoughts on following the WBA regular championship belt?
Billy, I'm usually one that can pay attention, but the bouncing ball, I mean, that was one of those loaded Super Bowls that it's Ricochet Rabbit, bing, 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 and it's you want to know some of the things that's going wrong with boxing today. You and John told me the belts. It's all in the belts, and the belts have devalued on some level, and these other super titles and super champions. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There was one belt that should be coveted, that should be respected, that should be appreciated, and we should have one world champion. That's it. Ain't gonna happen.
Well, that's what we all hope for, but you're
Go get
right.
your shine box.
Hey, listen, I got some more interesting title moves, but you guys are gonna have to wait because I got to take a break. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Stop living with hair loss, that is. Losing your hair is no fun, and no one wants to be bald, but there is hope.
Getting my hair back was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm happy with the way I look now.
I'm very excited about my hair.
I feel beautiful.
I love my hair.
Hair Club offers all proven hair loss solutions backed by our commitment to satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied with the solution you choose, Hair Club will apply the purchase price to another proven hair loss solution or transplant more hair at no charge.
That was the best thing I've ever done.
It looks good on me.
Call in the next 5 minutes to get your free brochure at no obligation. It will tell you everything you need to know about your hair loss problem, and it's free if you call now.
I am more pleased than what I had even imagined.
I at least look, I would say, 5 years younger.
I'm 52, and I look better now than I did when I was in my 40s.
I feel great.
And that's not all. The first 100 people who call will also receive $250 off any hair loss solution from Hair Club. Call now.
Stop. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And, it just irks me, Sal, that a sanctioning body would let a fighter who hasn't stepped inside the squared circle for over 3 years contend for a world title belt. And what bothers me more isn't how ridiculous that is. It's like saying, put a football team in the Super Bowl that hasn't played for a season. I mean, that's along the same lines when you want to, look at it in different terms. But the worst part of it, forget about the credibility of the sanctioning body. Forget about the ridiculousness of it. But the truth of the matter is what kind of signal does that send to a young fighter, whether he's in the amateur ranks or turned pro? We cry and complain that the pool of fighters are small. And when you compare statistically to years gone by, and I'm talking way beyond the 70s and 80s that we like to refer to a lot on the show, but I'm talking way beyond that. How can you, if you're a young athlete and you're contemplating getting involved in boxing and you see these kinds of moves and you're working hard and you say to yourself, why bother? Why do I go to the gym? Why am I putting myself and my body, mentally, my family, my personal life on hold while I dedicate, because as well as anyone, the dedication and that you have to put into this sport, specifically boxing, and why should I waste my time doing that when they're going to let some guy who hasn't stepped in the ring in 3 years fight for a belt that I've earned? I mean, I think that bothers me the most.
Yes, I know, because you're the outsider looking in, and you know better. A lot of the young fighters, including myself coming up when I did, we just see the picture of us being somewhere in that mix and trying to get propelled up there by our efforts of doing our due diligence in the gym and not turning down any fight or not being afraid to fight anybody, and letting our fists do the talking, because it's a grandioso that the world's going to work in a proper way and they're going to recognize my talent and skills, and I'm going to be somewhere in that mix one day, and we're going to make it happen. That's the dream. That's the adage. That's everything else that comes on the pats on the back and everything else that you feel is going to happen and go in your favor. So they're not that they're oblivious, but they want to be part of that mix, and that's what they fight for. That's the striving. That's what they're trying to do, to get into the contendership, to get lucky enough to get a title fight. And when they see something like this happens, it hurts. It does this, but like I said, as long as they try to get in the mix, they say, hey, that's going to happen to me one day. Who knows? That's it on that level.
Another thing was that, they're saying, somebody in the chat room is going, hey, it sucks, but that's the way it is. And I'm like, well, he's saying that's the way it is. You don't have to, we don't have a say in it. And I'm like, oh yeah, you do. It's easy. Don't buy the tickets. Don't support a fight like that. Let your voice be heard. I mean, they did that in the NFL with your New York Giants. The Giants were fielding a terrible team in the 70s, and the fans boycotted, didn't go to the games, burned their tickets in front of the stadium, and lo and behold, the organization turned itself around. And has been, for the most part, not this year, but for the most part, a winning organization since then. The problem with boxing is if we do that, if the fans say, forget about it, we're not going to that, that's a bullshit fight, we're not going there, we're not supporting it, we're not buying tickets, etc., etc., the promoters spin it and say, oh, nobody showed up, see, boxing's dead. It's like a kid. It's like a little kid that gets in trouble. Right, the kid gets in trouble. He does something he's not supposed to do, and he pays the price. He's disciplined in some way, shape, or form. Let's say he's grounded for a month or whatever the case is. He's grounded for a day. I don't know. Whatever you do, then the kid gets mad at the parents for grounding him for whatever the disciplinary move was. The kid forgets that the reason why he was grounded or whatever the disciplinary move was because he did something. Well, that's what boxing does. If the fans try to stand up and fight for something and let their voice be heard, then the powers that be turn around and blame it on the lack of interest and bypass and have the real reason covered up. What do you think?
I think you're right, and not to politicize this, but there are politics in boxing, and it's almost like our current president. He ran and got everyone's attention because he wanted to so-called change the establishment. Well, boxing also has the establishment, and they let the gears work the way they do. And no matter how our president is wanting to strive for the change, he doesn't have the establishment on his side to work with him. And the same thing in boxing. You could cry for changes. You could do this, but it's its own establishment, and change is going to be very, very hard to produce on that level. So I think it comes down to not producing a change, but appeasing for change and everything else, and just shaking their heads and yes, we're doing this, we're doing that, and that's how they get away with it, because they keep prolonging it, and it is what it is, and that's the whole thing. There is the whole organization, the whole thing that works with it. They make their private concessions, and it's the whole establishment. So there's a boxing establishment, there's a major league establishment. It's very hard to make changes.
News coming out of the convention concerning the World Boxing Organization. I think that people are spending too much time soaking up the rays and drinking fancy drinks with umbrellas in them, because I got some crazy WBO news, and I want to start it with this, and then we're going to take a short break. But Terence Crawford. Now,
yes,
we love Terence. I love Terence Crawford. I've been a big fan of Terence Crawford for a long time. And what I like about Terence Crawford is that he was originally brought in as an opponent for a couple of fights in a row, and then finally the powers that be realized, hey, we got something here. And Terence Crawford, what I love about Terence Crawford is he's more of an example of what I would call the sweet science than a guy like Floyd Mayweather. And the reason why I say that is because he does display boxing ability, but he also gets in that pocket and mixes it up and doesn't get hit. So he's in there inflicting damage on his opponent, and his opponent can't hit him. That's the sweet science. I love Crawford. I think he's a great fighter. Really, I'll use the word great. But it was announced yesterday, and it's official, that Terence Crawford vacated his WBO belt and all the other ones that he had, and because he had already vacated one, so he had all four. So I know he vacated the WBO belt, and he's now considered a welterweight. Now keep in mind, he hasn't fought at welterweight yet, Sal, and the WBO let him vacate his title, and in return, Manny Pacquiao, who was the number one ranked WBO welterweight, which shouldn't be, Jeff Horn should be. Well, then again, Jeff Horn is a champion, so the number one contender was Manny Pacquiao, who's been fighting at welterweight. Crawford now is the number one guy, and he's in line for a world title shot in his next fight.
It's a part of the concessions and the deals they make.
But what kind of BS is that? How can a fighter, Sal, it's bullshit. How can a fighter that has never fought in a division be elevated to the number one spot without fighting a fight? How can you do that with a clear conscience? And this has no bearing on the quality of Terence Crawford and on my feelings towards Terence Crawford, because I happen to think he's a great fighter. And I wouldn't even argue that he's getting a shot at a world title or even ranked at number one if he fought one fight at that weight. But how do you move a guy past all the other fighters just in the same reasons that we're talking about, guys that have climbed the ladder or done whatever they had to do? How do you do that?
Yeah, as one great warrior would have said in his own words, it's ludicrous. And I'll tell you what, it is crazy. It is crazy. Billy C., I can't believe it. And that's a slap in the face right there, because as you said, he's king of the junior welters. I give him that, and I like him, and I respect him. He's a great fighter, as you say. But, it's the private concessions. It's the deals on the table. It's the handshakes. It's the signing. It's a lot of things, and you and I know that. And it's a shame, too, because you know what? He should have to fight and earn his position to be number one or something up there. He shouldn't have to be, hey, you
back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And I got some more news that's got me all fired up today, Sal.
Agitation.
Not only is the WBO making Terence Crawford number one, check this one out. Sergey Kovalev and his next opponent, V. Shabernansky, who's scheduled to fight coming up in a couple of weeks, November 25th, about a month, in New York. The WBO announced that fight is now for the vacant WBO World Light Heavyweight title, the title that Andre Ward vacated when he retired. So now I get all mad at this. You're telling me, oh, well, hey, Billy C., that's the way it is. So now I'm going to ask you, Sal, because, since how you feel about Sergey Kovalev, how do you feel about Sergey Kovalev getting a shot at a vacant world title? And keep in mind, Sal, because everyone knows, including yourself, that he's coming off not one but two losses in a row to fight for this. How does the WBO, I was critical of the WBA approving Pulov Oquendo. Oquendo hasn't fought in 3 years. But how do you approve a fight with a fighter who hasn't won in his last two fights? The platform is yours, Mr. Cenicola.
Oh, boy, the pressure. Well, I still felt that Kovalev did win that decision in the first fight, even though it wasn't the way it went down. But I think a lot of fans still felt that he won that fight. But I'll tell you what, he definitely washed out of the second fight. And to look at this way, that he's now in line for the same title shot that he went for a couple months ago. I tell you what, it is what it is. And how many top contenders as a light heavyweight are there? And do they think that this now Kovalev resurrecting his career again and having some excuse is going to stimulate the light heavyweight division? He'll be champion again, and he'll take on all comers. Sometimes they make business decisions, Billy, to what's going to be good for business. And I don't like it. I don't agree with it. And I don't think he should be the next in line to be automatically walk into a fight that he's going to regain his title. So you know how I feel about it. It's not fair.
Well, what it obviously is that it works something like this. Hey, Mr. Sanctioning Body President, what can I put in your left hand so you can sign the approval with your right hand that you have the pen in? It's all called payoffs, boys and girls.
Do you think so? You really think that occurs?
Yeah, I know that occurs. That's why titles have no value today. We all know who the best fighters are. We cry because we want the best to fight the best, which doesn't happen. Then some of the best that aren't the best pound their chest and say they're the best, even though they haven't fought the best, and their people have bought a title for them. It's a joke. Boxing has always had a level of corruption in it. From day one, it's an easy sport to corrupt because you have two combatants, you have a couple of judges. It's not like a whole team of players that you can get to make things go your way. So it's not something new. But the level and the degree of the corruption today is unbelievable. And Teddy Atlas, as much as I'm critical of him because he believes it's corruption anytime someone doesn't agree with his thoughts, he's onto something in a sense where, it's ridiculous that these types of things happen. We talk about it all the time. If you're able to climb the rungs of a ladder and you follow that rule, even if we were split up among a gazillion sanctioning bodies, at least if you're forced to climb the rungs of the ladder in the sanctioning body you have your deals with, at least there will be things that would be ironed out a little bit. At least you wouldn't see these coming from left field kind of moves, Sal. Your thoughts, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the way it should have been. You know, you get in the top 10 or top 15, you're looking to fight another contender that's higher than you, and that's how you climb the rings of the ladder and the rungs of the ladder. And you're climbing, you're going, you're saying, hey, now I'm ranked number 8, now I'm ranked number 5, I'm going to get to number 1. I mean, that's the old days, the old ways it used to be done, and, you know, it's not that anymore, and, you know, it takes a little bit more exercise with the greenbacks and the dollars, and it's a shame because, you know, like I said, it should be by one's fruits and efforts of what he's going to gain and what he's going to put into the sport of boxing, and it doesn't happen, Bill. We know that. Yeah. No way to fix it. It's done. It's over. It's the way the establishment has been working, and nobody's going to change it.
Well, I don't know.
It's the private concessions. It's the deals. You know, yeah, and the last thing you want to do is get the government involved with professional fighting. Forget about it. Then it'll all fall apart. So there's no real easy fix, and there's nobody that really wants to take the time to sort it all out. Like I said, not to get political, but to drain the swamp and re-break and reset the establishment. It's not going to happen. It can't. It's a shame. Unless you and I come up with our own WB something. WB Billy. I like that.
I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. And just to add fuel to the fire, the WBO has also granted Terry Flanagan, who was the lightweight WBO world champion, he vacated his title, and now he's fighting Maurice Hooker for their vacant 140-pound title. Once again, they are handling this in pretty quickly in one clean sweep. They're really screwing things up. But anyway, some other sports real quick. Thursday night fights, Thursday night football, I should say, in the NFL. Boy, was I wrong yesterday. I said I'd play the Dolphins. They're going to win. The Dolphins got their asses kicked. The Ravens beat them 40-0 yesterday. So obviously I lost. I won't be eating this weekend. But anyway, in the NBA, the Bulls topped the Hawks 91-86. The Grizzlies over the Mavericks 96-91. The Celtics beat the Bucks 96-89. The Clippers over the Trailblazers 104-103. The Pelicans 114 over the Kings 106. In the National Hockey League, the Penguins topped the Jets 2-1 in overtime. The Bruins beat the Sharks 2-1. Hurricanes over the Maple Leafs 6-3. Rangers beat the Coyotes 5-2. The Kings beat the Canadiens 4-0. The Senators over the Flyers 5-4. Lightning over the Red Wings 3-2. The Panthers beat the Ducks 8-3. The Wild beat my Islanders 6-4. The Oilers 5, Stars 4, Canucks 6, Capitals 2. Don't forget, World Series picks up again tonight. It's tied at 1 game apiece. Game number 3 is in Houston. It's an 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time start. The Dodgers have Yu Darvish on the line, on the mound, and on the mound for the Astros, Lance McCullers Jr. A little interesting fact, the Astros in Major League Baseball were ranked number 1 in scoring. They scored 896 runs for the season. The Dodgers scored 770. That's 126 more runs the Astros scored than the Dodgers during baseball this year. If the Dodgers have any shot at winning this World Series, they're going to have to increase the bats. That's for sure. Let's look at some of the fights, Sal. Rob Brandt is fighting Jürgen Brahmer tonight. And, it's the last fight for the first section, the first heat, so to speak, of the WBSS. Jürgen Brahmer is 39 years old, former world lightweight champion. He's a southpaw at 5'11 and a half. Listen, he's been fighting for 18 years. His last fight was over a year ago when he lost his title to Nathan Cleverly when he couldn't continue after the 6th round. He's been around a long time. He's a quality fighter. There's no question about it. But the question really is, has he been around too long? 18 years is a long time 39 years old. For the most part, he was busy for his whole career. He's been out of the ring for a year. He steps in with a young fighter, 12 years younger, in Rob Brandt, who's also the same height as him, 5'11.5", but he's an orthodox fighter, and he's given up 1.5 inches in reach. The thing about this guy is we don't know much about Rob Brandt in terms of who's he fought. He's got 2 wins on his resume that are impressive, Chris Fitzpatrick and DiCarlo Perez, but neither one of those guys were world beaters to begin with. The thing about Rob Brandt is that he's been been sparring a lot, and he's been sparring some quality fighters. So I think the guy's got talent. But my question, like I raised yesterday, Sal, is he going to fight with a sparring partner mentality? That's going to be the answer, the question. The other thing, it's going to be interesting to see is that this guy, because he's sparring a lot, I wonder what his weight is. For his whole career, he's been a middleweight. He's ranked at number 27 in the world at middleweight. His last fight was a middleweight. He did fight 3 times above the 160-pound limit. Letkin Byfield, he was 161. He was 163 3/4 against Ernesto Berisop, and against Mickey Scarborough early in his career, he was right around what he weighed for the weigh-in yesterday, 166 3/4. As far as this fight, who do I think is going to win this fight? I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. Jürgen Brahmer has been around a long time. He's the favorite in this fight. But I think Rob Brandt is going to come out and win this fight. I think he's got a lot to prove. I think age is going to be a factor here. And I'm going with the underdog, Sal. I'm picking Rob Brandt. What's your thoughts?
You know what? Just for what you informed us all about, I think he's going to rise to the occasion. No, he's got this opportunity at hand, and I think I'm going to go with Rob Brandt myself. I think he'll pull it off.
Yeah, I think his experience with the people he sparred with is going to help him. The only thing I'm worried about is that he's not a sparring partner. His mentality has to be he's the guy. If he comes out there catching and trying to catch punches and do the right thing, then he doesn't have a chance. The next fight I want to break down is a heavyweight fight, a guy that a lot of people here in the States would like to see Deontay Wilder fight, but then again would like to see Deontay Wilder fight someone. Dillian Whyte is going up against Robert Helenius. Now, Dillian Whyte is a former world title challenger. His only loss came at the hands of the heavyweight world champion right now, Anthony Joshua. He does have wins over Derek Chisora, which was a controversial win in their last fight, December of last year. It was a split decision. Up-and-comer David Allen, he's got a win over. And like I said, Brian Minto, if you want to give him credit for that. But truthfully, Dillian Whyte hasn't fought anybody of big note. The biggest name, really, is Derek Chisora. And Derek Chisora isn't a world beater. He's ranked number 18 in the world at heavyweight. He's 6'4". Like I said, his only loss came at the hands of Anthony Joshua. It was a good fight while it lasted. 21-0 with 16 knockouts. He steps in the ring with Robert Helenius. Helenius was a former European heavyweight champ. He's ranked number 24 in the world at heavyweight, 6'6" and a quarter. He's got a height advantage. He's 25-1 as well. 25 wins, 16 by knockout. His one loss was a knockout loss to Johan Duhaupas, the same guy that we saw Deontay Wilder struggle with. Duhaupas really doesn't have much skill, but he's got a granite chin, and he in 2016, in April of last year, he knocked out Robert Helenius. Now, Robert Helenius, you got to go all the way back to 2010 in the 2-year stint between 2010 and 2012 when he was on the upswing, and he beat known fighters, big-name fighters like Lamont Brewster, Samuel Peter, Sakai Lukajevich, Chisora, Sherman Tank Williams, and then he had a little hiatus. And then when he's come back since the fight with Duhaupas, and even before, 3 fights before that, he hasn't fought anybody. He swore and guaranteed a knockout over Dillian Whyte. I say nay. I'm picking Dillian Whyte in this one, Sal. And I do think that a win for Dillian Whyte will set up a fight with Deontay Wilder should Deontay Wilder beat Stavern next week. What's your thoughts on this one?
I am right with you on that. I think Dillian Whyte is going to be able to handle this guy, and I think for all the right reasons, and he's got the incentive to do it. And I think he's got not to look past this fight, which is right in front of him, but I think he's got Deontay Wilder in mind and in his sight. So that's a good incentive right there. So he knows what he's got to do right at hand, and he'll do it.
You know, the funny thing is we still don't know if Wilder's going to fight this guy. I mean, Wilder has yet to really fight anybody, but we'll see. Then finally, the last fight I wanted to talk about, of course, is the fight that I can't wait to see, only because I can't wait to see this guy fight anytime. I don't care who he's fighting. Anthony Joshua is going up against last-minute sub Carlos Takam. Anthony Joshua, come on, what can you say? We've been talking about him all week long. He's the heavyweight champ. I think his resume is impressive, considering, when he first started. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In his 7th fight, he fought Matt Skelton. Matt Skelton's a tough guy, one of those journeyman fighters over in England. And then from that point on, with the exception of a Jason Gavrin mixed in there, he has fought tough guys. Constant Eric is a tough gatekeeper. Dennis Bakadhov, Michael Sprode, another tough guy. Zambrano Love has become the gatekeeper for the heavyweight division. Kevin Kingpin Johnson, he handed him his first knockout loss. Gary Cornish was undefeated when he fought him, 21-0. He did beat Dillian Whyte. Charles Martin, you could say what you want about Charles Martin, but he went into the fight as a champion of the IBF. He also beat Dominic Breazeale. Breazeale's a good fighter. I think Breazeale would beat Deontay Wilder. He also took care of Eric Molina a lot faster than Deontay Wilder did. He stopped him in 3. In his last fight, he beat the guy who really was the head of the heavyweight division for over a decade, almost a decade, in Vladimir Klitschko. He steps in to face Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam was ready for this fight. We all talked about, Eddie Hearn and his hindsight about having a backup plan ready. Carlos Takam is 36 years old. He's ranked number 19 in the world by the computer, a lot shorter at 6'1.5". When I look at Takam's record, 35 wins, 27 by knockout. He lost 3 times and has a draw. He was stopped 1 time. He lost to Joseph Parker. He lost to Alexander Povetkin. He had a draw with Mike Perez. He has wins against Francois Botha back in 2012, Michael Grant back in 2013. Both fighters that were well past their prime. I do give him credit for his win against Tony Thompson, but Tony Thompson was well past his prime too. I guess he's got to punch his chance. I think the fact that he's so much shorter than AJ, and the fact that he fights in a crouch, he's going to be even shorter. He's got a shot, but I can't see this fight going any length of time, Sal. I just don't. I see Anthony Joshua taking care of business and not waiting to take care of business, which is a smart move. He should go in there, take care of business quickly, and go out and have a nice dinner. What do you think about the fight?
Well, I think what you just said is probably the best. Don't even let this guy in the fight. Because he could be dangerous. I mean, you're training all along for another opponent, and then they slip another guy on you, which happened legitimately and everything else. And this, like I always say, any given night, anything could happen. And he does have a puncher's chance. Take him, he does, and I think he's going to be the smaller target. I don't think he's going to try and emulate a Mike Tyson, kind of moving and bobbing and weaving and things. I think he should, but there was only one Mike Tyson, and I think that this guy does have some advantage in the crouch, punching up with leverage and heavy and hard, and trying to try to surprise Anthony Joshua. I think it'll be a couple of good rounds of fighting. There'll be some good exchanges. Then if Joshua's not careful and tries to take care of business immediately, I think this guy, you don't let him in the fight because you don't want to wait to see what could happen in the later rounds. And I think Joshua answered those later rounds, with his fight with Klitschko. But we don't know how it is today if he goes into 10th or 12th round. So it could be an interesting fight, but I do see Joshua just being too strong and ultimately stopping this guy.
Yeah, no pussyfooting around in this fight. Take care of business quickly. I got an email I want to read. This is from my man Johnston Brown, who's been kind enough to forward me the diary out of the UK newspapers. You can catch his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. He says, "Hey, Billy C and Sal, on the big fight this weekend, I'm obviously going for AJ. I think he'll win by knockout in the middle rounds, although I do think he'll get behind his jab and fight smart and wait for openings in the first few rounds. He could do that for 12 rounds and win comfortably, but that's not his style, as eventually he'll go for it and knock Takam out." In a recent interview, AJ was asked about becoming a 4-weight world champion, and he said, history is a great thing to chase. It's very possible and a great challenge. I don't know what you mean by 4-weight. Maybe you mean 4 sanctioning body, because he's fighting in 1 weight class, so I don't know about that. He says, it's like a diamond in the dirt, the treasure, trying to get it, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If we can make it happen, I'll be up for it, but if not, it's not the end of the world, and leaves a record to break for someone else. Lastly, on AJ, you mentioned on the show that Joshua should be putting the Klitschko fight behind him. Well, he's the big man's answer at Thursday's final news conference. Joshua stressed he wants to put April's Wembley victory over Klitschko behind him. The mindset of a fighter has to be leave that last fight where it is and move on to the next opportunity. If I am living off the past wins, I may as well give up. I can't lose this fight and say I won a good one last time. No one cares. He also, which I agree, that's AJ talking, and I agree. Johnson says, I think Whyte will win by knockout against Salinas. Cal Yahafi will win a split decision over Sho Ishida. And David Allen on points against Lenroy Thomas. Lenroy Thomas, I guess, dropped out of that fight. My man Lenroy out of Florida. He's got 97 kids. No, he's a great kid. I like him. And Frank Bugali versus Craig Richards will be the fight of the night. Richards is a friend of a friend, and I wish him all the luck in the world. He says, watch out for Joshua Butasi and Lawrence Oakley, 2 future world champions. Butasi, I've seen that. And Oakley, somebody else had written in about Lawrence Oakley before. So thanks for the email, Johnston, and thanks for keeping us up to date with the diary as well. One last email. This one's from our friend Joel. He says, hey guys, while I know today's show's discussion will mainly focus on the big fights this weekend with Joshua and Takam, but I was curious what you and Sal think about Ricardo Mayorga's ring return next week in Russia at the age of 44. Looking forward to hearing you and Sal's analysis on the fights after I get home. The fight next week, Ricardo Mayorga, Sal, is fighting. And the joke of it is it's for a WBA international title. He's taking on Andre Surotikvin, who's 13-0. Ricardo Mayorga is actually ranked at light heavyweight at 192 in the world. Jeez. His last fight was at light heavyweight back in April of this year. He won over he stopped a 12-17-1 guy. I think the issue here with him isn't really his age. I just think he's looking for paydays, and if people are willing to pay to watch him fight, then he's going to fight. What's your thoughts?
Well, you may very well be. I mean, or he's just trying to jumpstart again and see what he can sustain over the next couple of years or next couple of fights, whichever comes first. I think it's going to be something that he's got a lot to go out and show and prove, and if he doesn't win this fight or doesn't look good going for the win, he's not going to be marketable and not going to make too much more money because his age is definitely always on his back neck breathing.
Yeah, you know that, don't you?
I do know that. But I think it should be okay, and we'll see. I think he's got to really look in the mirror and just say, hey, I'm good for a couple more years, or good for a couple more fights, and take each one and try to do his best.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the name of the game. But interesting thoughts from a couple of emails, and I just can't get past I know we're trying to focus on the fights and stuff, but I just can't get past the sanctioning bodies, just giving title shots to fighters. And I get it that they're already established, but I feel it's kind of disheartening for the young fighter that's trying to work his way up, and the coach is telling him, time and time again, you work hard and good things will happen. What you put into it, you'll get out of it. All those cliches. And here you read the latest news, and somebody else is getting a shot, and you're not even being looked at.
Well, it's not that they're not being looked at. There's a lot of fighters just on the fringe, and they're just looking for their breakthrough fight. And, like I said, what a real fighter, wants to do is just be part of that mix. And, if he's on the fringe, just ready to go in, he's not looking at what's going on in the mechanics right now. He's just wanting to get in that mix, and he's going to fight his heart out to be there. And, if he does things right, he will be considered. He will be there.
Well, hopefully.
And then it's up to the powers that may be of how they take him and what they're going to do him or what they're going to use him for.
True. We'll have to wait and see. But all we know is we will get to see AJ this weekend, and all eyes will be on him. And as he goes, so goes the sport of boxing, in my opinion. But anyway, hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Dax Khan is scheduled to join Sal and myself, and we will be getting his thoughts on the big fights this weekend, and then we'll go from there. We might even we'll have to wait and see what Dax says. So hey, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And just before we went to break, we read a couple of emails, and we gave you our thoughts on the three big fights for this weekend. And joining us right now is Dax Khan, and he's going to give us his thoughts on the fights. What's up, Dax?
What's up? What's going on with all the sanctioning body hate today?
Good morning, Dax.
Well, what do you think about a fighter who gets elevated for never fighting in a division to either fight for a vacated title or gets the number one spot so they're ready, or better yet, coming off a couple of losses and getting a world title shot? Oh, wait, there's more. How about not fighting for over 3 years and getting a shot at a title? I mean, Sal thinks it's fine.
No, I don't.
I remember somebody at one point in time coming on this show and saying something about a fighter who had fought once in 2 years against a low-level opponent and getting a shot at a world title, and everybody was fine with that, including Billy C.
Well, wait a minute. You're referring to Mikey Garcia, I believe.
Yeah, so there you go. See, you already knew.
I knew because I knew that that third person you were talking about was you. But Mikey Garcia, hey, listen, I understand, and my point about Terrence Crawford is certainly not to diminish anything of him or his skill set or anything, because you know how much I love Terrence Crawford. But I just think it's not fair, like I said to Sal, to all the young fighters that are busting their butts trying to get themselves in a position to compete. It's got to be disheartening for a young fighter who's working his tail or her tail off, and then all of a sudden see that they're still on hold, not getting their shot. I think that's what gets me more than the corruption in the sanctioning bodies themselves.
Absolutely, no, I agree, and I'm a big Mikey Garcia fan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from his skill set, but that was my point there too. What about all these guys that are online? For example, I have from a very reliable source that Joseph Parker, his next defense is going to be against Lucas Brown. And then if he gets past Lucas Brown, he's going to defend his title, or the winner of the Joseph Parker-Lucas Brown fight is going to face Brian Jennings. What's wrong with that situation?
Well, there's a lot wrong with that situation, but
exactly.
But, yeah, but Joseph Parker, you see, when sanctioning bodies do that, in my opinion anyway, they are discrediting themselves. But when you think about it from a realistic standpoint, the pool of fighters are just so much. There's just so many fighters available, and when these guys align themselves with a specific sanctioning body, then all of a sudden that sanctioning body only has so many fighters that they have ranked. So that's why contenders today, I don't think you have a true representation of top contenders. That's why I lean towards the computer rankings, and I have been for a while. I look at the computer rankings, and even though sometimes some of those aren't what I would agree with, at least they're more legit than specific sanctioning body rankings.
This is true. I have to agree. Then again, when you make those computer rankings, you also have to realize that computer is programmed by a person.
Well, it's programmed by a person, but the variables that are used, like, you know, who the opponent and who they fought, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that becomes a data in a program. So, yes, it's coded by a human, but at the end of the day, it's just taking data. The human element is actually out of it, you know. But anyway, what's your thoughts on the fights? First, the World Boxing Super Series super middleweight fight, Braehmer against Rob Brandt.
You know, I like this fight. You know, you made a valid point before. Rob Brandt really hasn't fought too many names that anybody recognizes. DeCarlo Perez and Alexis Hilarios are his two most recent. He did pick up a couple minor titles, I believe WBC Continentals and NABA belt. But, you know, he's fought a lot of guys that help prepare you to get into this spot. And another thing that you alluded to was that, you know, he sparred with a lot of top-name guys. So, you know, he's got a lot of experience in learning. Jürgen Brahmer's been around a long time. He's a guy who me and Alex and some of the other guys, when we used to do our ratings panel, used to argue about, you know, where does he fit in as a light heavyweight. You know, he's a two-division world champion, but again, you know, getting stopped in his last fight against Nathan Cleaverly and the fact that he's been off over a year since, that tells me that he's really at the tail end of his career. I don't think he's hungry anymore. I do believe that Rob Brandt, being the only U.S. fighter in this tournament, using this as a springboard to take advantage, to boost his career up, to get himself in that mix of the bigger fighters, to take advantage of situations like we were just speaking about where, you know, if you don't have the right people behind you, you may not get yourself into an opportunity for these major title shots. So I think Rob Brandt's going to make the most of this situation. I think he's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win in probably remarkable fashion, because I think he knows he needs a knockout in this in order to win, and that's exactly what he's going to do against the aging Braehmer.
Yeah, Sal and I both picked Brandt too. So I mean, you know, he'll catapult his career should he win, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what, you know, this is doing for a lot of guys. And everybody in this tournament is going to catapult their career. I don't care who it is, even guys that are known. This tournament is going to catapult their career to a new level.
Yep. Dillian Whyte is taking on Robert Helenius, and Robert Helenius made some bold statements, Stacks, earlier in the week, saying that he guarantees that he's going to not only win this fight but knock out Dillian Whyte. And I'm not saying that he can't, because there was a time when Robert Helenius was shown, you know, he was showing a lot of promise. It's always been two things with him: his conditioning and his desire. And in order, maybe he's feeling mentally that, you know, he's in the best shape of his career and mentally he's, you know, ready to fight. But when it comes down to skill set, and even though I said I didn't believe Dillian Whyte really has fought anyone superb either and won, I do favor Dillian Whyte in this. I'm not that high on Helenius. How do you see this fight going?
Robert Helenius is basic at best. If you want to describe his skill set, he's just, you know, a straightforward guy. The same two punches continuously. He's not hard to figure out. He has very little head movement. He's a tall guy, I guess. Well, not actually in this era. He's not really that tall. He's only 6'6.5". But you know, Dillian Whyte 6'4". Nowadays, that's considered small. But Helenius only has a half-inch reach advantage. Helenius has only fought a handful of times in the last few years. One guy, Konstantin Ulrich, that was the guy that Danny Williams fought in 2008, and that was the fight where the manager of Ulrich came in. He rang the bell early because Danny Williams was stopping him. Danny Williams was about to stop him, rather. And since then, he's fought guys like Evgeny Orlov. Helenius has a lot of outside problems in his personal life. We know he's had some trouble with the law, I believe. Dillian Whyte knows that a win here in spectacular fashion is going to put him in line to fight one of these champions. Maybe another AJ fight. Hopefully he can get the Deontay Wilder fight. So Dillian Whyte is going to come into this knowing everything that's on the line. Robert Helenius, as you stated, he has no desire. He doesn't care if he wins or he loses. So, you know, that's going to be the difference in here. And I think Dillian Whyte is going to, you know, work the body of Robert Helenius, and that's what's going to help end this fight early. You know, they also, you mentioned Dillian Whyte against Derek Chisora. Don't forget, Robert Helenius fought Derek Chisora back some years ago, and he only beat him by a split decision. So it's not like Robert Helenius really has anything on his resume that would make you sit there and say some accomplishments from the past that would give him an edge over Dillian Whyte.
So are you predicting a stoppage or just a decision? Or what?
No, I think Dillian Whyte's going to stop him. I think Dillian Whyte's going to break the body down. He's going to stop him because, just like I stated with Brant, there's more on the line, not just to win, but to win impressively.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there is a lot on the line for Whyte. I think I don't know what to think of Helenius. I never thought much of him. But Mike, I have another question for you. According to Eddie Hearn, he made a statement in the press recently saying that, he first of all, Deontay Wilder and his spokesperson or advisor, whatever, are demanding way more money. I mean, I believe that Deontay Wilder has never made $2 million. They're demanding somewhere around 7 or 10 to fight AJ, and they're saying, and he has to come to the U.S. And at times we heard AJ say that he wants to come to the U.S., but then Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying the other day, "Hey, that's not going to happen. He's got to come over here." They offered him $7 million to come over and fight AJ, providing he beats Dillian Whyte first in England. And the reason he gave was that Deontay Wilder is not known in England, which I found kind of a little fascinating. What's your thoughts on that? And do you think that Deontay Wilder would be willing to fight Dillian Whyte, or do you think he's just going to, avoid him and fight these chumps that he's fighting in hopes that he'll eventually get a showdown with AJ?
It's all marketing. Just addressing he's not known over in the UK. They know him, but they don't really know of his fights, more or less, this is a YouTube era, as we know. It's what people see on the internet and what little clips they can get. Deontay Wilder's biggest payday to date, I believe, is $1.5 million. So $7 million would, probably be more than he's made in his whole career combined up to that point. Why should AJ come over here? Yes, AJ wants to come over here and he wants to fight because he wants to be the type of champion that does, wants to be a world champion, fight around the world, just like Lennox Lewis, just like Vladimir Klitschko, and just like the other champions before him. But, in terms of AJ bending and coming over here to fight Deontay Wilder, because it's such an internet era, and because fans are so easily persuaded, win or lose, no matter what, AJ automatically becomes that B-side because he's the guy that's traveling to come see Deontay Wilder, if that makes sense. So AJ shouldn't have to bend. Again, I always stress those records on the AJ versus Vladimir Klitschko fight. 10 million views in Germany alone, and it actually sold more on Sky pay-per-view than Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao did, and that was the most anticipated fight probably in history since Ali and Frazier. So AJ's in the driver's seat. If Deontay Wilder doesn't go over there and fight, that's on Deontay Wilder. AJ has other business he can take care of, and there's other fighters, and Deontay Wilder would just be more than happy to stay on PBC. And once PBC falls, guess what, Deontay? You have no other choice but to go over there.
Well, you make a good point. I've said this all along. Sal and I have been talking about this for weeks. AJ doesn't need Deontay Wilder. The only thing that bothers me about Wilder is that he pounds his chest and says everybody's scared of him, which is not true. And I don't think, yes, he's got some pop. There's no question. Every heavyweight does. But if you get inside and fight this guy, I can't see that body lasting a body attack from a real fighter. It's going to be interesting to see what Stavern does next week with him if he does go for the body. Stavern's been making all kind of excuses how sick he was in the first fight, but then again, he hasn't really fought anybody since, which is also an indicator that, he was just being safe. So I don't know. I believe that Deontay has to go to England and fight Wilder. AJ. I just think that Wilder, whether he fights a Dillian Whyte first or not, doesn't matter. Either way, he's got to go over to England and fight AJ.
that's what he should do. But whether or not he does are two different things. But that's what he should do, and that's the difference between this error and past errors. And I actually truly, just like I tell my son all the time, I blame the internet and social media for all the dumb things that a lot of these kids do, because kids tend to repeat what they see. I blame the internet for a lot of the state of boxing today, because with social media, as long as you get yourself enough followers and you get yourself enough morons that will just sit there and repost YouTube stuff and will just sit there and follow everything that's said by one certain person, because we have more fight fans than boxing fans, it's easy enough to manipulate yourself and stay a star, stay relevant, and stay making money without actually having to go out there and seek the glory that fighters of past generations did. And that's the difference between today and even the 90s.
I got one last question for you, Dax, and I'm throwing it back to my tirade about the titles and stuff. And even though Sal disagrees with me because he's such a big fan, Sergey Kovalev, coming off back-to-back losses, is now fighting Shabransky for that vacant WBO light heavyweight title that Andre Ward vacated. Even though Sal loves the guy and talks to him on a regular basis, I think that it's just I think it's ridiculous that Kovalev is getting this chance. I mean, at least make him fight and win one fight, right? What's your thoughts?
I would agree. Yes, definitely. Especially there's other guys out there who have been waiting. Again, it goes back to that. There's other guys out there who have been waiting for fights and who have been fighting whoever's willing. Sullivan Barrera, there's a guy who his only loss is to Andre Ward, and that was several years ago. And since then, he's been, just nipping and waiting for that big fight. I believe, Arthur Beterbiev, he already has that IBF title fight lined up. There's that also the other guy from based up in Canada that's been, his name is slipping me right now, that has been waiting for a title shot. So yeah, I believe Sergey Kovalev should at least have one more fight. But then again, that talent pool in the light heavyweight division seems to be thinning out. We thought it was going to increase a little bit, but Badu Jack, we don't know what's going on with him. Nathan Cleaverly. So it's just a way for them to collect the sanction fee, because that division right now is kind of up in limbo. But definitely, I'd like to see him. Actually, the winner of this fight is who should be fighting for that WBO title against the number 1 or number 2 ranked guy.
You got any final thoughts, Dax?
On that?
No, on anything before we let you go.
This weekend, one of the fights that I'm looking forward to that's not being really talked about is the Khalid Yaffe fight against Sho Ishida. Yeah,
that's not on any American TV, is it?
No, but something, that's going to be an exciting fight, and it should be. It's for the WBA super flyweight title. What that tells me is the fact that it's onto a major card like this. Last week we had a series of fights on the undercard of Endem and Murata. Superflight 2 is coming up. Slowly and surely, these lower weight divisions are starting to make their way into the mainstream, and in my opinion, this is nothing but good for boxing. I do know that Sho Ishida, he may not look like the type of guy, when you look at his resume, that should be fighting for a world title, but anybody who knows about boxing over Japan, when you fight in places like the Bodymaker Coliseum or the Indian Arena, it's almost like the old Blue Horizon, where even guys that don't look like they're good are very good, and they're all tough fights. And when you break down those divisions with Inouye, Estrada, Hiaga, Kenshiro, Carlos Kudras, and even still Roman Gonzalez, whether or not he comes back, and of course Sorong Visai, right there, if these promoters take advantage of this and they do the right thing and they edge these guys up a little bit, it can definitely fill in for all these lacks that we're getting in these divisions that we're talking about, and these complaints about these guys getting world title shots when they don't deserve it. Because all these guys deserve world title shots because they all work hard, and there's never an easy fight in any one of those divisions. No, good point. Dax, enjoy the fights. We'll be looking forward to your thoughts on Monday, my man. Absolutely. And one last thing, the World Boxing Super Series, hopefully Carl Frampton, if you've seen, he's trying to rally and trying to get a Super Series in the featherweight and the lightweight division. So hopefully we can pay attention to that and see if this goes successfully. Maybe that'll be the tournament that we see next fall. Hopefully we'll see him in every division, really. But yeah, hopefully, but we'll see. Dax, have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to you on Monday, my man. All right, guys, enjoy yours.
Take care, Dax.
How's Dax Khan? You can check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. And, Sal, I like the tournament series, and I hope that they continue doing that. But I think overall, and we've kind of alluded to this, on the multiple topics this week, but I think, and we said it a couple of times even today, I just think that even with the, like you said earlier, that there's no getting rid of all these sanctioning bodies. They're here to stay. You're not fixing, et cetera, et cetera. And I agree with you. But if each sanctioning body required their own ranked fighters to fight the guy above them, and then the guy who wins advances, et cetera, up to the top, even that would display a better road to a championship title, don't you think?
Oh, by far, Bill. I mean, that if each respective sanctioning body took the steps and the means to really produce what they feel is their contenders underneath their guys, then they should do it in a legit way that says, hey, these are our contenders. Let's watch them work, and let's have them fight each other and see how they can climb the rungs of the ladder. And I really think that would at least show an effort and establish some kind of credibility with fighters and fight fans. And but again, boxing has been around for centuries in some way, shape, or form. And to legitimize it and run it the way that you and I think a corporation or business should run by certain rules and regulations is never going to happen. There's always going to be the private concessions made. There's always going to be the deals under the tables, or right and open, or the promises, or the lack of promises. It's part of the element of boxing. And you're not going to have to think it to be different. It won't happen. I think there's a way to make the appearance and make the structure a little more sound, but still, it's going to always be subject to those deals on the side.
I just think that if we talk about the journeyman fighter, that gatekeeper, that tough fighter that fighters have to fight to see where they are, and as they are improving and getting better. We don't have them. They have them in England, and the end result is why England appears to have the best fighters on the planet right now, because they're willing to fight those guys. They're not willing to fight those guys here in the U.S., and the reason is because they don't want to risk a loss or a draw or even a bad performance. So they bring obscure guys. I think Dax made a point about this a month or so ago, how all of a sudden you'll see a guy coming in from the Ukraine who's 23-1. You never heard of him. You never heard of any of his opponents. His opponents are making pro debuts for 20 of the 24 fights. And, that's the guys they fight. And, if you had those tough guys, the Matt Skeltons, who's a heavyweight in England, those kinds of guys that bring it, and they're a tough out. Like there was a kid I saw up at Turning Stone, that guy I was telling you about who fought in his 100th fight. He had like 54 wins and 44 losses, something like that. And when you look at a guy like that and you say, oh, geez, he's not good. But when you see that he's only been stopped a handful of times of those 44 losses, I mean, this guy is teaching his opponents something. He's got some tricks. And I think that the lack of these kinds of fighters here in the States, I think it shows what we have. We have guys that, have built up records and are just not that good.
Well, it's maybe not that they're not that good. Maybe they just haven't been able to face and show us their best yet, because they haven't fought that kind of competition, and they're not being cultivated to develop into that kind of fighter that we would all hope to see one day fighting for a championship. Some of them will, some of them can, and there's a handful out of that crop. But yeah, I'll tell you, it's a game book plan. Let's keep that O in our fighter's career for as long as possible. Let's leverage them for a big title fight or something and see what he does and how he can land. And sometimes if he doesn't land on his back, count it out, he's going to land with a championship belt. But those are far and few in between. The majority of them, as you said, suggest and say, they're not getting those big fights, the counting fights, the fights that are going to test them until they step into the ring for the ultimate, possibly their last fight of their career or the first fight of their new stage of their career.
Well, the other thing is, I make the statement a lot that promoters don't promote. Well, this is another example of it. Those kinds of fights gets those fighters out in the public eye, and you introduce them to beating the grizzly veterans and stuff like that. We're seeing too many fighters with not that many fights all of a sudden in the limelight fighting for a title, so and nobody's ever heard of them, so and then they want to develop them after they have a title belt, because the networks only want to broadcast title fights. So it's a shame, but
it's a catch-22. It really is.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Yesterday's trivia question got a bunch of incorrect answers once again, and it's a good one. It's a good one. I figured people would be able to get this one a little easier, and the reason why was because of the powers of Google. So anyway, the question is, who did Jack Dempsey say was the greatest fighter of his weight and height he ever saw? And now, if you know this answer, you know the correct answer, and you email me, Billy at Talkin Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and you're the first one to do so, you'll win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. Now, while I give you that email, just remember, if you have a question, comment, or concern, you take the time to send me an email. We'll take the time to read it on air. So make note of our email address, Billy at Talkin Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. So if you're the first one to email me the correct answer, who did Jack Dempsey say was the greatest fighter of his weight and height he ever saw, he meaning Jack Dempsey, email me that answer, and you'll win a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. It's an interesting question. I'll give you a question real quick. Do you know who Rocky Marciano's who thought was the greatest fighter ever, and who he wanted to emulate?
I thought it was Joe Louis.
No. It was actually Lou Ambers.
Lou Ambers. Oh, wow.
That
was a tough old cookie, man. Let me tell you.
Lou Ambers was
Lou Ambers.
Well, he was an Italian. Lou Ambrosi or something was
Ambrosi.
his last name. And he was Rocky Marciano's idol.
Wow.
Which is interesting. But
yeah.
Anyway. Now, remember, he was fighting around the same time as the best ever, Sugar Ray Robinson. So, he's obviously going to be picking a guy that was, before them. But
yes.
On this day, October 27th, in boxing history, in 1943, Sammy Angot, another great fighter, wins a 15-round decision over Slugger White. We don't have those nicknames anymore. Slugger White. I mean, you think you call that name and you say to yourself, "Well, he's got to be tough, right?" With a nickname of Slugger White. I mean, they're not going to call.
You're reading the back of a bubblegum cartoon.
Well, you're not going to see a guy's nickname, Petunia Paul, Petunia Paul Smith, Anyway, on this day in 1943, Sammy Angot wins a 15-round decision over Slugger White to win the vacant world lightweight title. Took place in Los Angeles, California. On this day in 1996, Dad Rung C. Surawat wins a 10-round technical decision over Nanya Kanadu to regain the WBA world bantamweight title. Took place in Bangkok. On this day in 1896, that's 1896, George Kid Levine knocks out Jack Everhart in the 24th round to retain his world lightweight title. It took place at the Bohemian Sporting Club in New York City. Sports clubs used to be so prominent in our society, and now they're There's hardly any around. Are there any in St. Simons or Brunswick?
Sports clubs?
Like a men's, like an athletic club.
Well, no. I mean, there are some. Yeah, they have them. Affiliated with Sea Island and some of the semi-private clubs there, and it's respected and appreciated by those that are amongst the others. It's a pretty good deal. Pretty good thing.
Just so you boys and girls don't confuse, we're not talking about like a Gold's Gym or anything like that. Athletic clubs used to be a place where you could go and work out. There was saunas there. There was a bar there. There was women there. There was cigar places.
The New York Athletic Club. I mean, that's world famous. It's been there for a long, long time.
That's still there. As far as I know, that one's still there. But they
established.
But there was so many. That was my point.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Also on this day, October 27th, in 1942, and this is a guy who is one of the greatest fighters of all time, and a lot of people forget about him. Ezra Charles wins a 10-round decision over Joey Maxim in their light heavyweight fight in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ezra Charles improves to 29 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, and Joey Maxim drops to 20-6. Now remember, most people think of Ezra Charles as a heavyweight because he was a world heavyweight champion for a time, but he was also a very good light heavyweight and middleweight fighter, part of the Black Murderers Row, they used to call them, all those great black fighters of the 40s, including one of my favorites, Charlie Burley. On this day in 1931, Panama Al Brown wins a 15-round decision over Eugene Hart to retain his world bantamweight title. That took place in Montreal, Canada, on this day in 1931. And finally, on this day, October 27th in 1903. Now, people remember, and he's one of my favorite fighters and one of the greatest fighters of all time, Jack Johnson. People remember him as being the world heavyweight champion. And not only that, he was the first black world heavyweight champion, even though my guy, Tom Molyneux, should have been crowned that 100 years prior to him. But this goes to show you some of the trials and tribulations that all black fighters had to go through during this Jim Crow America. On this day in 1903, Jack Johnson wins a 20-round decision over Sam McVeigh, who was another great fighter, Hall of Famer, to retain his colored world heavyweight title. He had the colored world heavyweight title before he won the the regular. I'm afraid to say regular world heavyweight title because today you got the regular, you got the interim, you got the super. So yeah, to win the world heavyweight title. The fight took place in Los Angeles, California. Jack Johnson improved to 15 wins, 3 losses, and 6 draws. McVeigh dropped to 8-2. Gives you an idea of how many more fights Jack Johnson had after that. I think he finished with almost 70 fights, 66. So
wow.
Anyway, interesting stuff on this day in boxing history, Sal.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I love listening to you with all these past days that created and I guess complimented some of the early days of boxing.
Yeah, I met this guy the other day, and he says he comes in and he starts talking, and he says, I don't know, boxing always comes up in any conversation, no matter where I am.
Absolutely,
and,
me too.
I said something about boxing. He says, boxing? I'm a huge boxing fan. I know a lot about the sport of boxing. And I said, really? And he says, yeah. And I said, do you stick with it now?
Your book, Tom
yeah, I go, do you still follow it? Oh, yeah, I follow it now. You're going to be watching that fight this weekend? There's a fight on this weekend? Yeah, Anthony Joshua's fighting. Anthony Joshua? I said, yeah. He's probably the best, one of the best fighters out there today. And he says, well, I haven't seen him fight yet. I said, well, I'll tell you what, tune in. He said, well, I know a lot about the fight game from yesteryear, and he asked me some stupid question, some easy trivia question. I look at him and I'm like, dude, Please, not that hey, don't get me wrong. I don't know everything about it. I mean, it's easy to stump me, but don't come in pounding you. Don't come in acting like you're Deontay Wilder, pounding your chest, saying you're the champion of boxing knowledge, and try to baffle me with some BS. But
I'd like to see him debate Henry Haskop.
Oh God,
legit.
I don't want to go anywhere near Henry Haskop in a
Forget
debate.
about it, man. I mean, as much as I think I know, I might know just what he has in one pinky.
Oh God, he is probably the most knowledgeable guy I've ever met. But
absolutely,
anyway.
Not just in boxing. I mean,
no, I was
just the board.
You're right. Not
this
just
guy,
in boxing.
He's like a walking encyclopedia.
I know. Hey, listen, man. Make sure you guys watch the fights this weekend, especially the Anthony Joshua Carlos Takam fight. We will be talking about that on Monday and all the big fight results. So be safe and sound. Have a couple of drinks in a safe environment for me. And hey, listen, I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. So I'll leave you with this. Make sure you tune in Monday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.